good speech, Will. Very positive. But Will, tell me, how are you really feeling right now?
Confused.
That's exactly what I thought you'd say. I really am sorry about your brother. I don't know what his circumstances were. But if I could give you a bit of personal insight. I've found that when we encounter tragedy in life, it's helpful to see the bigger picture. You know, Will, we're living in a unique time in history. There's more at stake than the well-being of just one individual. The survival of the world is in question. That's what's really important. It's our contribution to society that gives life real meaning. Will, you're a talented person. You have the potential to make a great contribution. Okay? You just stick with it. Well, that's just a bit of personal insight.
Thank you.
Sure.
My head was spinning when I left Mr. Patterson's office. For one thing, I hadn't even been thinking about my graduation speech, and just then it really hit me that in less than 3 days I would have to say something meaningful to hundreds of people. I didn't see much meaning in anything at the time. Certainly not in Mr. Patterson's little soapbox sermon about life. What he said made Paul sound like just another cog in the wheel who would never be missed as long as the wheel kept turning. Well, Paul was my brother, and I missed him.
Just 3 more years for you, little brother.
How do you say cheese in French?
As you Americans say, fromage.
Oh, think of it, love.
This is our dinner?
It's either this or Pop-Tarts.
So, what else do you do for fun? I mean, when you're at college.
Sometimes we go down to the railroad track. We'll take a few girls, a little smoke. We'll be having a good old time. Just when we hear that train coming, the guys all jump up on the track and run out on the trestle right towards the train. The girls go absolutely bananas. So we keep running. And just before the train wipes us out, we swing under the trestle and we grab onto a support. You can scream at the top of your voice and the guy next to you can't even hear you. The trestle is shaking. It gets really intense. then it's over. Everything is quiet. So your mind snaps back to reality. And you hear those girls down the track. So usually one of us will stay under the track while the others go back and tell the girls that so-and-so didn't make it. Then they really fall apart.
Well, did you ever think that you might not make it?
Sure.
Turner residence. Dad? Okay. Nothing.
Thursday seemed to fit my mood. I didn't do much of anything except answer the phone. People were calling to say they were sorry about Paul. A few of my friends called and wanted me to go somewhere to get out of the house. But somehow that's not really what I needed. It seems that in high school you're always going somewhere. Parties, concerts, over to somebody's house. I suppose that some people spend their whole lives going somewhere and they never really get where they want to be. Anyway, not much happened on Thursday. I felt as though I was in limbo, just waiting for something to come along that would change things. Paul's funeral was the following morning. Afterwards, everybody came to our house for lunch.
So that was the new minister that spoke at the service this morning, right?
Oh, actually, he's been here about 2 years.
You remember our son Jeffrey?
Yes.
Well, he's a vice president of a bank now in New
Really?
Haven.
Oh,
I've had a very difficult year.
Wow, this food is absolutely delicious.
I had one of those viruses that was going around. And then I had to cancel our trip.
They just have a beautiful home on the golf course.
And then the doctor gave me some new medication, and I got better. And we went to Dallas at Christmas time, and I had a relapse.
They've done so well for themselves.
You know, I'm not going to have to eat anything at all tonight.
And of course, Harry has not been one bit of help since his arthritis flared up again.
Yeah, I hear he's having a tough time selling it too.
Carol's been wanting to tour the wine country for years.
Sure don't. But I've got a deal downtown.
I want you to know that I think you are handling this so well.
Oh, thank you.
Will, I understand you're going to be giving the senior address at the commencement exercises tomorrow.
Well, yes, sir.
That's fine. That's just outstanding, Will. You know, I do a little speaking myself. Last month I spoke to the Lions Club, used Babe Ruth as one of my examples. Everybody knows that Babe Ruth was one of the greatest hitters of all time. But, Will, did you realize that he struck out more than anybody in Major League Baseball?
Excuse me, I think I need to go outside.
Will, when he was in Boston.
Your folks having a party?
Yeah, you could say that.
Oh, looks like you got a letter from your brother. That's it.
All week I had imagined what it would be like just to talk with Paul one more time. I had so many questions, but The last thing I expected was to actually receive a letter from him. I didn't tell my folks about the letter. It was written to me, and I felt that I needed to keep it to myself for the time being. I remember taking the letter straight to my room, and as I read it, I cried. I cried because I missed Paul, but mostly I cried because much of what Paul had to say made sense. And for that past week, nothing seemed to make sense. That night seemed like the longest night of my life. Each minute seemed like an hour, and each hour an eternity. As I read over Paul's letter again and again, I was being forced to deal with questions about life that I had never asked myself. And that bothered me because I knew that if Paul could have walked into my room at that very moment, I wouldn't have had any answers for him or for myself. It's odd that I began the week with so much enthusiasm about graduating and giving my speech. I thought I had all the answers, and really I didn't even know the questions. My speech now seemed superficial and empty.